Welcome to The Real Review on Damn Good Radio, and I am your host, Warbucks. The movie we are diving into today is They Will Kill You 2026. My dear listeners, gather around your dials, sink into your leather armchairs, and let the velvet night wrap around you, because tonight we are embarking on a cinematic journey that is going to leave your senses bruised, battered, and begging for more. We exist in an era of filmmaking where the silver screen is so often cluttered with sanitized, algorithmically generated drivel. We have grown accustomed to the safe, the predictable, the emotionally sterile. But every now and then, a film violently kicks down the doors of the multiplex, dragging us by the collar into a glorious, unhinged fever dream. That is exactly what They Will Kill You achieves. Released into the cultural zeitgeist of 2026, this film arrived shrouded in whispers. It was a production veiled in secrecy, a project that promised to resurrect the raw, unadulterated grit of midnight cinema while wrapping it in the sleek, deceptive elegance of modern high society thrillers. The hype leading up to its premiere was a palpable, living entity. Audiences were hungry for something visceral, something that did not just entertain, but grab them by the throat. And oh, my friends, does this movie deliver? It is a dizzying, blood-soaked waltz of vengeance, class warfare, and the occult, a picture that demands you surrender your sensibilities at the door. So adjust your volume, dim your lights, and let my voice guide you through the labyrinthine, blood-stained halls of the Virgil. Let us set the stage, shall we? The film opens not with a grand, sweeping, establishing shot, but with a suffocating, claustrophobic intimacy. We are thrust into the grim reality of our protagonist, Asia Reeves, and her sister, Maria. The cinematography here is drenched in sickly, fluorescent hues, a deliberate visual choice that immediately instills a sense of unease. They are on the run, fleeing the terrifying gravitational pull of their abusive father. The desperation in their eyes, the ragged intake of their breath, it is all captured in tight, handheld framing that makes you, the viewer, feel like a frantic accomplice to their escape. They find themselves cornered in a dingy, forgotten convenience store. The lighting buzzes with a harsh, unforgiving glare. It is here that the film delivers its first punch to the gut. The father encroaches, a shadow of domestic terror, and Asia, driven by the primal, desperate instinct to protect her blood, draws a weapon. The trigger is pulled. The father falls. It is a moment of horrific liberation, but one that demands an immediate, devastating toll. Asia is arrested, the cold steel of handcuffs biting into her wrists, while Maria, tragically, remains trapped in the labyrinth of the foster system, separated from her protector. We smash cut 10 years later. The grim grit of the past dissolves into a breathtaking, intoxicating display of architectural opulence. We are in New York City, and rising like a monolithic middle finger to the heavens is the Virgil. Asia, hardened by a decade of incarceration and loss, arrives at this exclusive, century-old high-rise posing as a newly hired maid. The production design of the Virgil is nothing short of a masterpiece. It is Art Deco soaked in Gothic menace, all brushed brass, blood-red velvet carpets, and shadows that seem to cling to the walls like living things. Asia is greeted by the building manager, Lilith Woodhouse. Oh, Lilith, played with a venomous, icy charm, her Irish lilt dances over the syllables of her dialogue like a razor blade over silk. Lilith plays the quintessential gatekeeper, explaining the pedigree of the Virgil, a sanctuary for the world's wealthiest elite. But beneath her polite veneer, the camera lingers just a fraction of a second too long on her unblinking eyes. The atmosphere is thick with unspoken threat. Now, my friends, this is where the film shifts from a tense, simmering drama into an absolute, unapologetic slaughterhouse. Asia is asleep in her meager servants' quarters. The sound design drops out completely. A masterful use of negative acoustic space. Suddenly, the silence is shattered. Masked intruders, among them the wealthy residents Kevin and Sharon, breach her room. They expect a lamb, they find a lioness. The choreography in this initial home invasion sequence is a ballet of brutality. Asia is armed, she is prepared, and she is lethal. The camera work here switches from the elegant tracking shots of the upper floors to frenetic, kinetic sweeps. She dispatches the attackers with a savage efficiency that leaves you breathless. But just as Asia demands answers from Lilith about Maria's whereabouts, the film pulls the rug out from under us in the most spectacularly deranged way possible. The bodies of the attackers, they begin to stir, limbs contort, wounds knit together in a grotesque display of dark magic. They resurrect. The sheer panic on Asia's face mirrors our own. She is forced to flee, diving into the claustrophobic, dust-choked vents of the building. The tension here is agonizing. You can hear the echoing taunts of Kevin and Sharon reverberating through the tin ducts. When Asia drops from the vents, she is immediately pursued by Kevin and Sharon. What follows is a chase sequence that perfectly balances horror with a wicked sense of dark comedy. Sharon lunges and Asia, wielding a shotgun she has procured, responds with a blast that practically obliterates Sharon's head. The visual effects team deserves an award for the arterial spray alone. It is practically a crimson monsoon, but our heroine is overwhelmed until she is pulled to safety by Ray, Lilith's husband. Ray serves as our Virgil, pun intended, guiding Asia through the inferno of the building's lore. He drops the narrative bomb. The Virgil is not just an apartment building, it is a sprawling, vertical temple to Satan. The residents have purchased their immortality through the currency of human sacrifice. It is a stunning exposition dump that somehow works, delivered against the backdrop of the building's suffocating luxury. As Asia and Ray ascend to the next floor, the director throws in a detail so wonderfully macabre it borders on genius. Unbeknownst to them, they are being trailed by Sharon's severed sentient eyeball, rolling along the floorboards like a fleshy marble. It is a bizarre, deeply unsettling visual that reminds you that in this film, the laws of biology have been entirely suspended. They finally locate Maria, but the reunion is not one of tearful embraces. The emotional core of the film cracks open here. Maria, hardened and deeply cynical, reveals she knows exactly what the Virgil is, and shockingly, she does not want to leave. The psychological complexity of this moment is profound. Before we can fully process this betrayal, Asia is forced to knock her own sister unconscious as a swarm of immortal cultists descend upon them. The pacing accelerates into a breathless sprint. Asia and Maria escape via a creaking ancient dumbwaiter, leaving poor Ray to be captured by a gloating Lilith and a partially regenerated Sharon, whose head is regrowing in a sequence of body horror that would make David Cronenberg applaud. We move to the kitchen. Stainless steel, cold lighting. Asia and Maria finally have their confrontation. Maria's monologue is a tragic, grounded moment amidst the supernatural chaos. She explains her journey from sleazy motels to the gilded cages of the Virgil. She was meant to be a sacrifice, but was spared, trading her moral compass for the comfort of high thread count sheets and guaranteed meals. It is a chilling indictment of survival in a capitalist nightmare. Suddenly, Lilith's voice echoes over the intercom, declaring open season on the sisters. The kitchen erupts into violence. Maria, finding a shred of her former loyalty, saves Asia from a cultist, only to be captured herself. This sets the stage for Asia's roaring rampage of revenge. Listeners, if you love action, the next 10 minutes of this film will be etched into your retinas forever. Asia procures an emergency fire axe and through a series of events sets the blade ablaze. She becomes an avenging angel bathed in neon and fire, cleaving her way through the immortal elite. The lighting is completely saturated in deep, hellish reds and stark shadows, but despite her ferocity, the numbers game catches up. As she attempts to climb the grease-slicked cables of the elevator shaft to reach a fire escape, she is ambushed. Lilith drops the final, devastating piece of the puzzle. To secure her place among the immortal, Maria must perform a blood sacrifice. The target? The very maid Asia was posing as. We are dragged, kicking and screaming to the climax on the penthouse floor. The set design transitions from Art Deco to outright satanic grandeur. Cultists, draped in designer finery stained with blood, gather around the centerpiece of the room, a severed pig's head resting on a silver platter. But this is no mere decoration. Satan himself possesses the swine, communicating through guttural, demonic grunts. Written across the pale, lifeless skin of the pig are the names of the immortals. In a display of terrifying power, the demonic entity magically erases Ray's name from the flesh. Lilith, compelled by dark forces, murders her own husband, this time permanently. The entity then issues its unholy decree. Maria must carve her name onto the pig and execute her sister. The camera pushes in on Maria. The internal conflict plays out across her face in agonizing detail. She holds the knife. She looks at the glittering skyline of the city, the wealth she has clawed her way to. Then she looks at Asia, the sister who took a bullet for her soul 10 years ago. In a twist of heartbreaking defiance, Maria carves Asia's name into the pig's flesh and plunges the blade into her own heart. The silence that follows is deafening, but only for a moment, because Asia, now imbued with the dark gift of immortality, rises. What ensues is a cathartic, exhausting, ultra-violent ballet. She does not just kill Kevin, Sharon, and the cultists once, she slaughters them repeatedly as they attempt to regenerate. It is a loop of carnage. Lilith, desperate, allows the demonic pig entity to possess her entirely. A duel of epic proportions breaks out, a gritty hand-to-hand brawl between a grieving sister and a vessel of hell. Asia, battered but unbroken, overpowers Lilith, physically tearing the demonic head away. In a stroke of pure, unadulterated cinematic triumph, Asia grabs a bottle of industrial bleach, douses the pig's head, and sets it ablaze. The names melt away, the magic breaks. The cultists, stripped of their protective wards, finally succumb to the horrific injuries Asia has inflicted upon them throughout the night. They fall permanently. Asia grabs her sister's lifeless body, the burning pig head illuminating her path, and flees the burning penthouse. We cut to the street level. The cool night air of the city feels like a shock to the system. Asia reunites with an associate, gently laying Maria's body in the back seat of a getaway car. And then the payoff. The chest rises. A gasp of breath, Maria resurrects. Asia reveals the scrap of charred pig skin. She had cut out the name, altering the magic to save her sister. As the sisters drive away into the sprawling metropolis, the top floors of the Virgil detonate in a spectacular, fiery explosion, raining embers down upon the city like confetti. Now, my friends, let us look beneath the blood-splattered surface. Let me start by saying this movie pays deep reverent homage to Kill Bill and the broader pantheon of Quentin Tarantino movies. The way the blood squirts out of the bodies when certain body pieces get sliced off, it is entirely theatrical, entirely stylized. It is not meant to be realistic. It is meant to be a painting of violence. The way the fight sequences are set up, prioritizing rhythm and geography over shaky cam confusion, everything about this movie pays homage to Quentin Tarantino. I am a huge Quentin Tarantino fan, so I really enjoyed this movie, but it is more than just a stylistic echo. It felt like a glorious mutant hybrid of three different types of movies: Kill Bill, Ready or Not 2, and Get Out. Let us unpack that, shall we? From Kill Bill, we get the relentless, singular drive of the female protagonist. Asia is the bride, wielding a burning axe instead of a Hattori Hanzo sword, cutting through a syndicate that wronged her. From Ready or Not, we extract the biting, razor-sharp critique of generational wealth. The residents of the Virgil are not just monsters, they are the 1%. They literally feed on the working class to sustain their own elite status. It is a potent, hyper-literal metaphor for late-stage capitalism. And from Get Out, we find the insidious nature of assimilation. Maria's arc is the psychological anchor of the film. She represents the seductive trap of the gilded cage. She is not brainwashed by magic. She is brainwashed by comfort. The film asks a terrifying question. What would you tolerate? What atrocities would you ignore to never have to worry about rent or starvation again? This is a movie where you should turn off your brain and be entertained. It is a really funny, action-packed movie, but that phrase, turn off your brain, is a fascinating paradox here. Because while the surface layer is a roller coaster of explosive gore, the architecture of the film is deeply intelligent. I have not seen the full trailer for this movie, so I was not expecting the people to come back to life after she killed them. The movie took an interesting turn when that happened. It subverted the traditional revenge thriller. Usually, the hero kills the villain and it is over. Here, the violence is rendered temporarily meaningless. Asia must outsmart the system, not just outpunch it. I really enjoyed the end of the movie too. This movie was insane and easily in my top 3 movies of this year so far. Why? Because I love how even the main character was not perfect in all of her fight scenes. She always prevailed in the end, yes, but she stumbled, she missed swings, she got thrown through glass tables, she was exhausted, bleeding, gasping for air. This vulnerability is essential. It grounds the fantastical elements. We root for Asia not because she is an untouchable superhero, but because she is a fiercely determined human being navigating an inhuman world. The message here is one of resilience. It is a reminder that the systems of power, no matter how ancient, no matter how insulated by wealth or literal dark magic, can be dismantled if you are willing to swing the axe hard enough. It is a celebration of sisterhood over servitude, of primal love over manufactured luxury. This is a must-see in theaters, I promise you. The communal gasp of the audience, the shared laughter at the dark comedy, the collective flinch at the gore. You will enjoy it immensely with some good popcorn and something ice cold to drink. It demands the massive canvas of the cinema screen. All right, film aficionados, this is the part of the show where we put on our white gloves and pull out the magnifying glass. They Will Kill You is a treasure trove of hidden details, and if you blinked during this rapid-fire onslaught, you missed a masterclass in subliminal storytelling. First, let us talk about the wardrobe. The maid uniforms worn by Asia and Maria are not just standard issue. If you look closely at the stitching along the lapels, there is a subtle geometric pattern. That pattern perfectly matches the hexagonal tiles on the floor of the sacrificial altar room on the penthouse level. The film is visually telling us from minute one that the working class in this building are literally designed to walk on the altar of sacrifice. It is a brilliant, insidious touch by the costume department. And what about our charming building manager, Lilith Woodhouse? Her name is an overt, beautiful Easter egg. Lilith, historically the mother of demons in Mesopotamian and Judaic mythology, paired with Woodhouse. A direct, undeniable nod to Rosemary Woodhouse from Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby. Another iconic film about satanic cults operating within an exclusive New York City apartment building. Did you catch the floor numbers on the elevator? As Asia and Ray make their ascent, the digital display skips floor 13, which is standard for American high-rises, but it also skips floors 4, 14, and 24. In many East Asian cultures, the number 4 sounds like the word for death. The Virgil is a building entirely devoid of the concept of death until Asia arrives to reintroduce it. Let us discuss the demonic pig head. During the close-up shots, if you freeze the frame, the names carved into the skin are not just Kevin, Sharon, and the residents. Towards the back of the pig's ear, inscribed in faint, jagged letters, are the names Vega, Winfield, and Kiddo. The director literally carved his Tarantino influences into the flesh of the film's ultimate evil. It is an obsessive, incredibly meta detail. Furthermore, listen to the sound design during the penthouse fight sequence. Underneath the heavy, pounding score, there is a persistent, rhythmic thumping. It perfectly matches the beats per minute of the ticking clock heard in the convenience store during the flashback in the film's opening scene. The director is acoustically tying Asia's original trauma to her ultimate triumph. Time stopped for her 10 years ago, and she is finally starting the clock again. And finally, the sentient eyeball. When Sharon's eyeball is rolling down the hallway, it briefly pauses and looks at a portrait on the wall. That portrait is of a young man from the 1920s, wearing the exact same signet ring that Kevin wears in the present day. It confirms the century-long lifespan of these monsters without a single word of exposition. It is blink and you miss it filmmaking at its absolute finest. So, my loyal listeners, where does this leave us when the smoke clears and the credits roll? It brings us to the moment of judgment. I am awarding They Will Kill You a staggering, highly coveted 4 out of 5 popcorn buckets. Why not the perfect 5? To be utterly transparent, the film's pacing stumbles just a fraction in the second act. The lore dump delivered by Ray, while fascinating, grinds the kinetic momentum to a brief halt. And in a movie that relies so heavily on practical effects, which are largely spectacular, there were 1 or 2 moments during the elevator shaft climb where the green screen compositing felt just a touch synthetic, momentarily breaking the gritty illusion. But these are minor grievances in the face of what is otherwise an absolute triumph of genre filmmaking. To justify this score, you must look at what the film set out to do and how spectacularly it achieved it. It aimed to be a relentless, darkly comedic, hyper-violent satire, and it struck the bullseye dead center. The acting, particularly the nuanced, tragic performance of Maria and the sheer physical commitment of Asia, anchors the insanity in genuine human emotion. Compared to other films in the horror action genre, this year They Will Kill You stands head and shoulders and occasionally severed pig heads above the rest. It is audacious, it is loud, it is fiercely original while wearing its influences proudly on its blood-soaked sleeve. As the embers of the Virgil cool and the sirens fade into the New York night, we too must bring our broadcast to a close. They Will Kill You is more than just a movie. It is a cinematic event, a visceral reminder of why we gather in the dark to watch light dance on a screen. I cannot stress this enough. See it in a crowded theater. Feel the collective pulse of the audience jump when the axe swings. Let the spectacle wash over you. Thank you for tuning in to The Real Review. Whether you are driving through the city, under the neon lights, or sitting quietly in the dark sanctuary of your room, keep exploring the magic of the silver screen. Stay critical, stay passionate, and remember, in a world full of polished, predictable stories, always leave room for the wild, the untamed, and the bloody brilliant. I am your host, Warbucks. Good night, damn good radio. Keep the projectors running.